Welcome to the Real Life Buyer podcast. In this podcast, you will hear interviews with business owners, entrepreneurs, thought leaders, authors, and technical specialists in their field. These professionals will hasten your development, accelerate your career, and broaden your business know-how. Now, introducing your host, Dave Barr, interviewing with a purchasing twist.
Hello, and welcome to the Real Life Buyer. Every business owner seeks financial security and stability. But do you know the secrets to achieving this? My guest today is Brandon Neely. Brandon is dedicated to helping people break through to smarter, more stable financial futures for themselves, their businesses, and their families. Brandon and his partner Amanda have their own podcast called Wealth Wisdom Financial, where they share timeless principles that show you how to build the wealth you want for your dream lifestyle. Today, I want to uncover more about their processes, systems, and advice that result in businesses becoming more financially organized and sophisticated to safeguard their long-term future. So, without further ado, I welcome Brandon onto the podcast. Hi, Brandon.
Hey, Dave. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Excellent. Okay, now, obviously, I've been looking at your profile and your website and all the other social media angles. And I see you created a successful lifestyle as a coffee shop owner, but things were not as comfortable as you wanted them from a financial standpoint. Tell us about your situation and the realization that led you to change course and seek the education to become financial experts.
Yeah. So this is one of those things where, you could have an Instagram lifestyle. You could have all of the things that people just see like, oh yeah, look at the picture of my customer, look at the picture of this. And there's an illusion of success. Whereas, the P&L, the balance sheet, those kind of things were really, hey, everything looked great, but I wasn't paying myself as well. And people would say, yeah, but you love it, right? That's why you do it. And I'm like, yeah, but I still like to eat food and not just like cat food or, not that I ever ate cat food, but, it was one of those things of making sure that the business needed to serve me. Our business was called Overflow. We wanted to change the world. But if we don't take care of ourselves, we can't overflow. And it was like 5 years in, we were doing all the right things, everything that we heard and said, do all this, and this, but it wasn't leading into the life that I desired. And so we pivoted. Also, we were having a child and we're like, I can eat ramen and that's okay. However, I can't do that to a child, and we need to make sure and change. So selling that first child to have another one was a hard decision, and that's why I'm in this industry saying, there's a bigger plight. Entrepreneurs don't pay themselves fairly oftentimes, because it's illegal to not pay your staff, but it's not illegal to not pay you, and so how do we reverse that?
Yeah, it's obviously, a lot of people do dream of having a coffee shop, and people often look at the margins of selling a cup of coffee in itself sound really good. I've got some friends who have looked into the same thing. Just trying to get some context to these things. We talked a little bit earlier on about the very low profit margins that tend to occur in the catering type businesses. So people understand, how big was your coffee shop? Do you have many staff? Was it obviously very popular? Was it a 5 or 7 day a week business? Can you give us some parameters?
Yeah, we started small, and then we would have people like, I had a guy give us a bad review, and I haven't said this in a while, but he gave us a review saying, you need to be open longer hours. And I was like, and I knew who he was because he used his credit card. And so I talked to him. And I said, have you ever run a business before? And he said, no, but I went to school for business. And I said, so margin wise, and the reason we aren't open all the time is because guess who runs the staff? Guess who runs everything? Me. I want to make sure that I can still survive. And as we grow, we want to have more staff, more hours, more of that. But there's a cost to that. So if you want that, and he changed his review actually after that conversation, but if you want us to increase our hours, I need you as the customer to show up more so we can increase the hours. And he's like, oh yeah, you're right. So because otherwise I'll burn out and there will be no coffee shop. And so when we started, and I think we were still really long hours, but we were 7 days a week and I had staff, but then things would happen on that day off, of course, the Sunday the Sabbath, right? We take off. But, emergencies, crazy things. Who knows what would happen because, just because I have employees doesn't mean I'm not 100% responsible for what happens if I'm not there.
Yeah. Obviously, you have to step into the breach when somebody isn't able to turn up or whatever. So you never seem to get a day off, basically. Okay, thanks for sharing that. Now, when I've looked through some of your posts and your work, I noticed a few statements. You said you made a discovery and described this as the truth about banks and how they really work, and then went on to make a big pivot and began building wealth with a smarter, more stable financial strategy. So can you explain what these statements mean? And are there any common myths that we should bear in mind when we talk through this?
Yeah. So think about this on the credit card or even buying a house. You bought a house or you bought a coffee. 2% goes straight off the top to a bank, right? Just on credit card processing fees. They were not around. They were not even at the coffee shop, right? And I remember having this thinking of realizing how much credit card fees go away of this money that I collected for them. And then the Internal Revenue Service here in the States, the IRS, I was like, this guy never shows up to work and I still give him money all the time. This is ridiculous. And it was really annoying me as the business owner saying, okay, these people are making money hand over fist and there's no risk. So what I've learned is don't do what the banks tell you to do what the banks do, right? And we're all in the banking business, every one of us, whether it's in the States or not, it's a global thing. And so how do we mimic and do that? And so I've found using this thing called infinite banking, which is within the US, a properly designed whole life insurance policy. So instead of just having it sit in a savings account that makes no interest, which is crazy because you'll put it in the bank, right? No interest made, but they'll turn around and use that money that you saved to go make more money for them, right? So why wouldn't we do that for ourselves? So I learned saving. I just happen to put it in a life insurance policy, and then I'll use that cash value for asset creation, right? And then instead of taking a loan from the bank, my money will continue to grow as if I never touched it. And I'll be able to leverage that to grow my wealth. So buying commercial real estate, office here, paying off high interest debt with low interest. And so that was a realization for me of saying, okay, we're all in the banking business, even if I run a coffee shop. And if you're selling a widget to anything, how do we control more of that?
There's something that I've only seen one or two posts about, infinite banking. It's quite a new thing. What are the big risks there?
Well, actually, it's not. It's not. It's been around for hundreds of years, life insurance and the way in which it's done. But the problem is Wall Street came in the 80s, and this was the wisdom of the day. You look at It's a Wonderful Life. Remember that movie, It's a Wonderful Life?
Yep.
His asset, what asset did he say I have? He said, all I have is my life insurance. That was his stability. But yet we became a nation of consumers, risky versus saving, right? And so it shifted because the economy and in general, we were like, let's go back. So our old business name was Grandma's Wealth Wisdom. The tagline was sometimes intelligence skips a generation. So I'm using an old tool, just modernized a little bit. So it's been around. It seems like it's new, but it's not.
Yeah, not in this terminology. Yeah. Is there what's the risks about using this? Because I think, oh, blimey, I've got an insurance policy. I'm going to, leverage that, get some money. What if it all goes wrong? What if that money is lost for whatever reason?
Yeah. So what I like about using it, at least within, I don't know how it works in your state or your country, right? But within the US, the cost of money, capital, 5% simple interest, right? So it's 5% simple interest. I borrow against kind of like a HELOC. So if you have a house, you take the equity from your house and you get a loan. And if you lose your job, the bank is going to do what?
Collect your house.
Collect your house. But people say, well, that was my money. I put it. Well, no, it actually wasn't, right? So here with a life insurance policy, you're the house, right? And the collateral basically is an advance of your death benefit with the cash value. But no one's going to come at you saying, you need to pay this loan. You need to do this or that, right? Our need for savings is always going to be important, our need for future things. But we need to realize that things happen. Emergencies happen. I might need to lower things for a time, right? And I have personally done that. And so that's the power of this, is like the banks don't care if you lost your job, right? They're still going to want their money. Where here, there is still interest cost. I'm not going to say that, but it's responsibility for you because it's the equity of your house, right? Bank and the insurance company will be made whole either way, because what it is that the cash value is in advance of your death benefit, right? So you'll still, when you pass away, they'll just subtract that.
It's quite interesting. I have to spend some time looking into that a little bit more. So let me jump onto two things. You mentioned such terms as foundational wealth, and you also referred to, I think you call it your 4D adventure track. Can you explain what you mean by foundational wealth first and then move on to the 4D concept?
Yeah. So foundational wealth is building stability, savings, right? Versus just investing. Too many people are saying I am saving whenever it's really investing, right? And I think about the book, Richest Man in Babylon. 10% of all you earn is for you to keep, right? So we want to keep more money, right? We want to make sure that we are doing the right things, right, in place, instead of just saying, oh yeah, well, thinking about, again, saving or investing, realizing the differences there, right? That's one part. Foundational wealth is understanding that piece. And then we can take bigger risks, right? I think about the owner of the Mavericks, Mark Cuban. A lot is in foundational savings, right? He doesn't risk as much as we think, but he's built a good foundation to be able to take bigger risks, right? We're not Mark Cuban yet, but maybe we can get there, and it's building a solid foundation so you can make bigger risks. And if you lose, that's okay. You're still okay. And then our adventure is this idea, really, I think about is defining, 4Ds defining. Too many people, I feel like, are just kind of sleepwalking through life and their business, and they haven't actually decided on a plan, right? That goes into our STILL method, setting your sights, defining, right? So we need to define where we want to go, right? We can't just assume. And if we do not define it, the banks have a plan. Everybody else has a plan for our money. We need to figure out where we want to go and then get there. And then you reverse architect, you design it, right? A policy or profit first or any of that, it's only a roadmap to get you where you want to go, right? But if we're just kind of sleepwalking through life or putting out the next fire, right? We need to figure that out, design it. And then, of course, it's departing and then discovering along the way. But departing and figuring out, like, okay, you can't just talk about it. You got to actually do something, right? And as you go, you'll learn, you'll figure out new discoveries, new things. Yeah, where I'm at with my even policies. Man, if I didn't go through the coffee shop experience, wouldn't make me who I am. Will I ever go back to that? No, absolutely not. But it was a great discovery.
Yeah. One of the things that comes to my mind are the practices, the suggestions, the advice given by people like Robert Kiyosaki, where he is talking about having substantial loans, should we say, or certainly getting money from banks, using that money to invest in property so that you get a good return on when you rent those properties out. So you've got that source of income that is higher than the mortgage, those sort of costs. So does that fit into your way of thinking? You talk about investing and saving, the differences between the two. And you talked earlier on about, the truth about banks, but he's using the banks and the bank's money to generate income for himself over multiple properties. I'm just trying to see where that fits.
Yeah, I think it totally fits within reason. You want to do the math, right? So I used my policy for half of my mortgage, because I did the math on that. And then I took a bank loan for the other half, right? And we did the math. The problem is most people don't do the math. And again, they don't do the designing part. What I like is kind of bridging. Sometimes you can go too far of over leverage, and the market does some things, and people are over leveraged because they took Robert Kiyosaki all the way to an extreme. And then there's the Dave Ramsey people who are, pay off all the debt. It's being smart about it and using debt in a smart, efficient way. And this is the best way for me figuring out how do I use debt in a smart way to build bigger wealth, right? And so use the banks, but the banks are in the business of making money, thinking about the cashback things and all of those little gimmicks. If you don't understand, they do this because they want to get people caught, right? They want to make money. They make a lot of money off of interest, right? So understand where that is playing and use it in your favor.
Yeah. Obviously, for myself, as an example, obviously I have a credit card like most people do, but I've taken out a card that will earn me interest on what I spend. But every single month, that credit card is paid off in full. Yeah. And at the end of the year, I get a sum of money back from the credit card companies, sort of gratitude for me using their services, shall we say. So in that case, because I'm paying off that debt every month, I don't incur any interest. And so I only get what they give me back, which sometimes is between 100 and 200 GBP pounds, which is quite a nice little sum of money every year because I use that credit card to my advantage rather than theirs.
Right. And then they have probably other people who don't, and they're paying your bonus, right? And somebody is paying for it. They are a profitable business model. They understand the psychology of it, and they have. And right, I think that your podcast, is the real life buyer, right? What I've always thought about and continue to think about as I build things for my clients. I want to always be the buyer, even as I'm proposing solutions for my clients. If I am not sold on it, if I'm not the buyer, even, how am I expecting to sell other people? And that's something I think is really important, and why I love, I implement the strategies personally. I have policies, lots of them, and it's about being the buyer, not just being the seller.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for that. Now, obviously, we talked about your clients, and as we mentioned earlier on, your job is, as you say, to lift the hood, see what's going on underneath, what the real numbers are telling you. And no doubt you've had many clients over the many years now. Now, I'm interested to discover what kind of things you see quite often. There's some challenges, no doubt, and I'm sure you're able to suggest putting in processes and systems to help them get more organized and less overwhelmed each month when all the bills come in. Can you talk us through the kind of things that you observe, you see, and the things you quite often recommend people put into practice to help them on their journey?
Yeah, I think running more lean businesses as opposed to just saying, oh, I'll take a loan for it. I'll take a PPP loan or who knows what, because we're addicted to this kind of thing. And again, reverse architecting. What I've found and seen is a lot of people are just playing a game and it's not real. And they're going to end up facing some serious consequences, right? And so going back to the Robert Kiyosaki, Dave Ramsey kind of idea and implementing the profit first system is, instead of thinking about that dollar is just a dollar coming through and I'll go spend it all, what I've seen is a lot of business owners aren't either paying themselves. They're not, they will want to get a profit distribution from their Tesla stock or whatever else is coming in, but they don't do a profit distribution from their own business, and they're not paying themselves, or they're overpaying themselves. So what I love about the systems that we put in, and we have a quest that we call Manage Cash Flow Like a Millionaire, is a course, right? Is instead of that dollar coming into the business and going into everything, all payroll or all OpEx, is we divide that dollar into different buckets: owner's pay, taxes, profit account, and OpEx. So then I'm keeping a smaller amount to OpEx to run a lean, efficient business, right? And I'm still paying myself. And I'm not like caught with my pants down because I forgot that taxes are due that I should have been saving for. People do this all the time. I swear I hear it. I'm like, they're like, oh yeah, I have this tax bill that I spent. I'm like, that wasn't your money. Right? Or the same idea of budgeting or managing cash flow. They forget that Christmas comes. I'm like, it comes every year, same day. I don't know. Make a plan for it.
Exactly. Yeah. As you say, making buckets where you ensure a certain proportion of your income, of the money you make, goes to, makes absolute sense. And you don't touch it. As you say, you've got a bucket for the tax man, and you know that is sacrosanct. You can't go anywhere near there. Makes absolute sense to me. But you say you often see people don't organize themselves in a manner such that those automatic payments are made. And therefore, as you say, this surprise happens every year at the same time.
And we, as business owners, are shiny object people. We'll go buy this shovel and think it's going to solve the problem. And then we'll forget that we bought a course that we halfway did for 20 grand. And then wonder, why isn't I not there? I'm like, well, you didn't follow up with the first thing. So follow one course until success, and then buy the next thing. Will probably help your payroll, budget, everything. But oftentimes as business owners, we love squirrels. We hear something on a podcast or YouTube and say, I need to do this. And then we start a project, we never finish it. So we need to really be super hyper focused on what is my unique skills, amplify that. And as you grow, I think about this as a child. When I first started our business, it was a newborn. Right. I had to do all kinds of wiping the butt kind of stuff. Right. And it's growing. It's 5 years old. So as it grows, there's a little less things. There's still hand holding, but it's evolving. And oftentimes we want to compare ourselves to a 20-year-old business or 30-year-old. I'm like, no, they've been around for generations. You've been around for 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing that I find quite challenging for all businesses, let alone new ones, is obviously volatility is the thing that everybody fears. And we've had some time now of extreme volatility through various things happening around the world. You're trying to budget for, let's say, as a household, for example, budgeting to pay your fuel bills when suddenly the prices go up by 10, 20, 30+% overnight. Certainly in the UK, people's heating bills have gone absolutely crazy. We've had fuel prices rocket, come back down, rocket again. There's so much volatility there. So if people are good and they do organize themselves and budget, how do you recommend do those businesses deal with that volatility when it suddenly hits them from the side and nobody expected it?
Yeah. And I think there's volatility that happens. We're seeing it a lot globally, right? But I will tell you, and this is why I had the foundational wealth built. So back in, I don't know how many years ago this was, but I had a flood in the business. Literally, they took off the roof. I was gone to the gym because, that's right, trying to take care of myself. And it was a freak storm. And my staff called me and said, you need to come in. The store's falling apart. I was like, oh, no, he's fake, and he called me first, but then he called my wife because I didn't answer because I was on the treadmill. But then I got the video. I was like, oh, crap. Everything is falling apart for real. Now, you want to talk about volatility. It didn't happen to the store next to me. It didn't have, it happened to us. And that shut us down, right? Volatility, 100%. But what was able to do is because I had savings and stability, I built foundational wealth. I was able to leverage that to overcome that obstacle, right? And I was able to sell the business, not close the business because of that situation. And for me, volatility happens, whether it's a heart attack or a global pandemic or whatever, supply chain issues, I don't know, that it's going to happen and it's going to continue to happen. But we need to learn to live within our means, build a good solid foundation, save first. And maybe that's good. Maybe we don't need 5 cars. Maybe we only need 1 or 2. I don't know. But, reverse engineer, build what the life you want, and then feed the fuel towards those things and not just everything.
Yeah. I guess one of the key things, I don't know if you subscribe to this, is basically I create a bucket for myself, which is for unexpected things happening. So I pretend that there is this bill that's coming and I provision for it in the same way as I would do for any other known expense.
Yeah, it's all in my policy. I do the exact same thing. It just happens to live in my policy. And if I have a flood, here we go. I'll take a loan or use it, but it's there.
Yeah. The key thing is for people to be prepared for those things. Don't just look at those that are visible in front of you, but also think of those unexpected things that come around the door and prepare for those in the same way.
Yeah.
Cool. Now, another thing I picked up when I was looking into your information was you referred to something called the STILL method. Can you explain what this method is and how it helps people?
Yeah. So again, these acronym things, I think a lot about them is the world is in chaos, right? COVID has taught us this, and I think it's going more and more into chaos. Tax codes are chaos for real. It's confusing, haphazard, anxious, overwhelming, and stressful. Tell me that's not half of our people, right? And just thinking about business owners, right? And I don't know, suicide rates, all kinds of stuff. Everything is in chaos. And what we need to do is go back and I even think about divorce rates, all of this. It's chaos, confusing, haphazard, anxious, overwhelming, and stressful. Well, again, what's hard is we want to just turn on the TV, turn on this, and we don't know how to sit with our own thoughts, right? And so the still method actually came from the Bible of be still, right? And it was setting your sights. We need to actually have a goal, right? Not just sleepwalk through life, but setting your sights. What kind of business do I want to be? What kind of parent, or any of that? Set your sights. What kind of husband? Setting your sights. Really hard to do, right? But it's important to do. And I guarantee you, if you did that with your spouse, there would be a lot less divorces, right? It's because we did that. Then that's the S. Then you do track. You can set your sights, but if you don't actually go to the gym and I want 6-pack abs, but if I don't go and track, do things, right, then it doesn't matter, right? Budgeting, whatever you want to call it, manage cash flow. So tracking, inspect your progress, like keeping and saying, okay, I'm doing this, inspect it, right? And then make the next L is look for 1% adjustments. It's not the slam dunks, the home runs. It's usually the base hits that win the game, right? So the 1% adjustments over time, because again, thinking about those people who've made it, no, they just probably did those 1% adjustments, and you just see the end result. So 1% adjustments, and then live deliberately. It's that simple, right? Doing the still method, and this is why we do a course on it in our membership site, and just think through it. It's really that simple, but oftentimes, again, we're chasing I can do this in a quick fix, rate of return type deal, and not building the foundation and figuring out reverse architect, doing the still method.
Yeah, so it sounds like the consistency and repeatability is quite vital to that. As you say, it's not a one-time sudden you win the lottery type of episode. It's small incremental adjustments over a long period of time.
Yeah. Well, and I think about this. I was just talking to a guy who, business surgeon or something like that. And I was thinking about, we'll pay a lot for the heart surgery, right? And that quick thing. Whereas doing healthy eating and going to the gym, we think it's, it's not that big a deal. And I go, actually, maybe it is more, but we again have to realize the little things we do over time add up.
Absolutely. So before I ask my last question, where will people find more about yourself, your podcast, what you do, the social media links, your website? Can you share those things with everybody?
Yeah. So if you go to Wealth Wisdom FP, that's financial partners, wealthwisdomfp.com, you'll find our website. And as well, if you go to look up Wealth Wisdom Financial on podcast and on YouTube, totally subscribe to our YouTube channel. You should be able to find me everywhere. Look for a cartoon version of me. Just look up Wealth Wisdom Financial, and I'm on everything, I hope. And if I'm not on everything, let me know. But really, search Wealth Wisdom Financial. You should be able to find me.
Excellent. Okay. So we're at a point now I always like to share some good stories. So you've seen many business owners and entrepreneurs. You've supported them and schooled them over a period of time now. Can you share some notable examples of where you've helped a financial turnaround occur, perhaps explaining where they began, what action they took as a result of working with you, and how they're performing, how are they working today?
Yeah, I have one that literally I did a policy for him. He does real estate. And I told him even a couple of years ago, I was like, we're going to have windfalls and you're building this and it's too small. You probably need to do bigger. And I don't always say that, but I was like, I know you. And he's coming back to me and he's like, you're right. You're right. This is too small. And this is how it's growing. This is how my wealth is growing and all of this. And so it's been fun to say, all right, well, now let's strategize because your net worth and all of that is growing because you've understood how the game works. And he's like, I'm finally getting it. And it took a couple of years, right? And then I've had other clients where I've helped them get out of consumer debt, right? And understand how to grow a healthy business that works for them. And so those are some where it's just little 1% tweaks that have helped them. And it's just amazing to see when you understand how the numbers work. Doing a real estate deal, sometimes I see a lot of people who are out there hustling. And I'm like, you don't need to have 100 houses. You just need to have a couple that actually run the right numbers. And that's been amazing just to see light bulbs turn on and say, oh, yeah, you're right. Happens way too often.
Yeah. I guess one of the rewarding things I think about is when you help somebody to get out of a position where they, as you say, been in debt, have had a lot of stress, anxiety, just the release of the debt itself, just going back to a neutral position in itself must be a great position to be. And then to go on to then save money and build a business that is successful must be extremely rewarding for you.
Oh, it's so much fun. And then just to be able to see what also I find which is frustrating, is people get in their own way. They self-sabotage, they do things or they will go back and say, well, Dave Ramsey said this or that. I'm like, well, maybe could Dave Ramsey be wrong? Right. And that's sometimes blasphemy in certain circles. But I'm like, maybe. And sometimes it's what we think we know just ain't so. Right. A lot of times in the world of the internet, Wall Street, there's a lot of illusions out there that are keeping us on this treadmill. And it's kind of, again, I am going all these things of, I took the red pill and I learned blue pill, whichever, I don't know which one. But now I'm able to see things differently, and I'm helping my clients say, okay, maybe if you did this, and they have to want it. But a lot of times they will say, I'd rather have the other oblivion kind of thing.
Cool. Okay, Brandon, that's been really good talking to you today. There's certainly some things I need to look up and research more. Certainly infinite banking is one of them. So thank you very much for sharing those concepts with us and for obviously sharing your wisdom today.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me, Dave. I'm excited, and I love to leave your people with this is always be the buyer as you're building your business, always. And that's going to serve you so many ways.
Brilliant. Thanks very much. Take care. So there's another Real Life Buyer podcast. I do hope you enjoyed it and it's given you some ideas and inspiration for greater action and achievement. If you are a purchasing or a supply chain professional, business owner or director, come and join my Facebook group. the purchasing and supply chain community hub, a safe place to engage with like-minded, friendly people. See you soon. Bye.